Hello everyone and welcome to the Deep Blue Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deep Blue Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 263. Today is Sunday, February 10, 2019, and I'm glad you could join me today. I woke up fairly early today and caught a flight back. Well, I don't know. I made the plans a while ago, but such is life. So, as such, I'm a little bit tired. But whatever, it seems like I've survived re-entry reasonably well. So, I have my cup of coffee. It's probably not too late for a cup of coffee, and we're just gonna go with it today. So I do have quite a few things to show you this week. I did end up having a lot more knitting time than usual, which was lovely. So shouldn't be too crazy, and it was extra long between episodes, so who even knows what's going on? So unfortunately I have something that's totally uncounted, but whatever. We'll go with the finished objects because they are floating near the top. I did end up finishing my Wool Folk Tapetus cowl, so this is a Tanis Gray pattern. And I noticed, I think actually fairly recently, that I might have done it a little bit silly. Whatever, such is life. It was supposed to be 5 repeats and I did 6, so oh well. So this has already been battle tested. It matches my coat really nicely. And then depending on how warm I want to be, it's hair up or hair out. But yeah, so it was much appreciated wandering around the streets. So this was something that I ended up finishing on the flight out to San Francisco. I was playing a little bit of yarn chicken at the airport, but I think I managed to make things look pretty good. I might have had enough yarn to do another row of the gray, but maybe not. I was, what would it be? It was definitely pretty close towards the end. And this is so soft and lovely. Really liking it quite a lot. And, here are my floats in the back, so it almost looks like from here like I have the inverse cowl pattern. So I managed to weave in all my ends, so I have maybe one, just a little bit of one sticking out here or there, but I think this is gonna be a really, really nice finished object. Woolfolk has, I guess, something called Ovis 21 Ultimate Merino Wool. And I don't know what Ovis 21 is, but it's amazing. So this is Woolfolk Far. This was yarn from the McKinney Knittery that almost immediately became a thing. It could probably even be used as a muff if I wanted to. It's pretty ridiculous. So, really happy about that. The only thing that maybe I'm not quite so happy about, which isn't really necessarily a fault of the pattern, but it doesn't actually fit nicely in a pocket. So while this perfectly matches my coat, I will need to carry it in my knitting bag or something like that. But as far as quibbles go, that's not a big one. And this is nice enough that this is the sort of object where if you do not know where it is located, you retrace your steps until you find it. So I didn't have very many leftovers at all. Definitely the point where I could not do one more row, so not too crazy. But I did end up finishing 2 more objects. So what I have here is another Tensfield hat. I knit this out of Cascade Chunky Alpaca and Lion's Brand Homespun in the crazy Julie blue color. And you can get a sense for just how, I don't know, I was really happy with how this ended up turning out. So there's all sorts of fun ways that it can be worn that end up highlighting different parts of the pattern. So this is something that I had cast on Thursday morning and bound off Friday night. And this was one that I had cast on, what would it be? This is one that I cast on Saturday, I think. Maybe, yeah. And then I bound this guy off on the plane ride. So I'm really digging how it looks. I really like how it can show a lot of different faces depending on what you're showing. And I ended up making these 18-inch diameter. Part of the reason there was that I had made the a 20-inch diameter one, but that one was like way too big for normal human heads. Looks like a snag on my nail. So I will need to take some FO pictures of this, so this one hasn't even made it to Instagram yet. But I finished this on the plane. So that takes me to what I started on the plane, which I may need to rethink a little bit. Well, I ended up zipping it into the suitcase. I use a suitcase to carry all the stuff upstairs. So I will need to figure out a good spit splice or whatever. But I ended up starting a third Tensfield hat. So I am knitting these hats because I am doing the SSK charity knit along, and I am also playing along with Amy Florence's Hats for the Homeless knit along as well. So I figured that I would be donating it to the Scarlett Bennett Center when the time came, and in the meantime I could get a couple in. So I just barely started this one. I'm knitting this one on smaller needles. I think I'm going to end up having a bit more of a... It may just be the case where I should probably restart this bad boy. I might want to hold this yarn doubled in order to make it look right. And then I would probably switch to larger needles as well. So this may end up getting ripped out. But I figured that these hats were a really good way to use up the last of the acrylic and begin getting into some of my like weird, what would it be? My weird worsted wool leftovers. I ended up bringing several baggies with me just because I haven't really been working with it very much, so I figured that that would probably be good candidates for hats. But But this is how much I have left of the chunky alpaca, and this is how much I have of the homespun. That turned out much closer than I was expecting it to be. And then these are the 3 remaining balls of the wool folk, which is hardly anything at all. So I'll probably end up putting these guys in the script thing as well. So this means I can put this pattern away. I don't need that tape measure in there anymore, and I'll have to figure out what it is that I will be doing next. Because I'm not 100% sure right now. Or if I'm just gonna have like a giant hat knitting extravaganza. It's a distinct possibility. So like this is, these are the bags of worsted wool that I ended up pulling out. And I've barely scratched the surface of this. So I could be working quite a few more of these bad boys depending on what's going on. So I have like a gray DK, some light blue wool from I don't even know what. So there's just all sorts of interesting things in here. I have 2 balls of scraps from a sweater. I have this bright blue was actually a gift from a swap that I knit something for my niece out of. This tan color is from knitting the dog for my niece as well. So all sorts of things. I may have just said the So the plan, which probably will change now, is that I have this guy here, which might be DK. It seemed to indicate that it was worsted, but it might make more sense to hold this doubled. And this was some yarn I actually got quite some time ago, so it is Daikiedo Diufran, and it is made in Japan. It is feltable, and has the same sort of chainette structure that Woolfolk has, actually. So that was pretty cool. I don't even know. I don't even think this is in the stash. Yeah, I know. I'm not really so good about this. I'm pretty sure that this isn't in the stash. So it won't give me bonus points for the SSK knit along, but it will get some yarn that I was like totally at a loss to use. It was the case where it was yarn that I got in the yarn swap. I decided to go for the biggest bag possible, and this is then resulted in stash that I can't get rid of. So I should make it in the hat. And then I was gonna hold it, or I was gonna stripe in this coral Lions Brand handspun, and this is basically the last of it. So I could also use up the very last of this blue color too. So it may just be the case where I go through and just sort of make a big dent on some of this stuff. I had also pulled out this. These are some leftover Malabrigo. They're worsted, so this is a single in greens and purples. So I was thinking of also including this as well. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of it, but definitely in terms of thickness, it's definitely much more substantial than its buddies. So, that is what I've got going on there. Oh, I also have another, this is Brown Sheep singles as well that these are leftovers from a pair of mittens I made before podcast. So, what would it be? I'm just sort of going through the stash and figuring out what to do with some of the older stuff. As you do. So, the last work in progress is one that sort of come to a thinking point. Oh my gosh, this snag is driving me nuts. So, this is my breathing space. This is a Viravalamaki pattern that I am knitting out of my handspun nest. So this is a superwash merino silk, and the mistletoe, Noel, and Yule colors, I think. Because I think Jolly is the red. And I do not have that much green left. So this means that I have come to dilemma time. I'm not quite sure whether or not this could finish off the sweater. But I do know that I'm probably not quite long enough yet. So there's that. But I sort of put it on a pause because I needed to take some time, put it on, figure out what it is I wanted to do about it. And it may be the case where I need to order some more of this colorway. Luckily, since I'm striping it, I think it'll actually be pretty subtle. But I'm pretty sure I need more. So I stopped. But this was most of my conference knitting, and I still have quite a lot of this left. But I'm pretty sure I don't have enough of this left. I am some inches away from where the length of this needs to be. I've definitely striped it more than actually what I called for in the pattern, and I started the stripes a little bit earlier to be a better steward of the yarn, but at some point, I do have to call it, and it is actually slowly but surely growing as I knit it, so I'm not sure if that's changing things too much. I'm not in danger of running out of the blue, and I knew that before I started. So I'll have to figure out what I want to do about this. If it turns out that I do need to spend more for it, that will delay things somewhat, as you do. So whatever. But I'll just sit down and figure out what it is I want to do. It didn't seem, at the time, I did not know what I wanted to do with it yet, and I'll have to figure that out tonight. So that way I can move on and do other things. So I think that's why I ended up in a hat holding pattern. I suspected that I was going to get through a decent portion of the knitting that I brought with me, and based on the number of FOs I have this week, yes. So I will have to decide what's going on. So one thing that will be starting soon is the Knit the Precious Cal. And so maybe that'll be a good cast on. I haven't entirely decided what I'm going to do for that yet. I think almost when I had originally come up with the idea for the Cal, I was thinking this, but obviously that's natural now. So I'm gonna have to find some other precious to knit with, and I'm not entirely sure about the pattern either, so I think I'm just in a oddball knitting place right now. Now the coffee's all gone, so I do have a lot of very luxurious things kicking around. Like, even just of the handspun itself. And then I have some very interesting skeins as well. So, for example, for this pink skein here, like, I definitely have quite a lot of yardage, and I wanted to actually combine it with a black woolen steel yarn, but I'm not quite sure about the pattern, but I was hoping to maybe get something that was a little bit more architectural with it, and I thought it would look really nice because this is the cherry blossom, so I thought the black and pink would be pretty cool. I also have this skein that is entirely silk. It is a chain ply of a 2-ply, and these are some of the finest singles I have ever spun. So I have about 400 yards of this, and I have no clue how this is going to end up working up in the end. It is a pretty Mardi Gras colorway. And then I have the sister to the cherry blossom, so this is Pansy, and this is spun as a gradient. I believe it was a 2-ply split in half. So unfortunately there was a little bit of dye leakage when I washed it, which was sort of unfortunate, but not the end of the world. A little bit of the purple did get on the gold. So there are some options there. I don't know if I should just knit with the pure silk just because it is such a different yarn than any of my hand spun. It was a bit of a cheeky one because I spun that for Stash Dash, and then decided after Stash Dash to ply it again so that it was a 6-ply instead of a 2-ply of obscene fineness. So, but I also have there would be a couple of really interesting ones here. So this is the yak silk that I ended up making more gold. This is a very high silk content merino silk in sort of lighter purples. This is the alpaca silk in like, I believe it was Denali was the colorway. So the colored bits are the silk and the black is alpaca. And then I also have this yak silk, which is super duper divine as well. And this one has more sort of jewel tones to it. So this one was spun as a fractal. This one was a Pigeon Roof Studio, so it's dyed in a random way. I think these two were both Greenwood Fiberworks. And this one is super duper decadent, obviously. It's really interesting how the dye ended up taking on this one, so it made it a much more, it turned out to be a pretty complex looking color. So it was a case where it could have been this bright of a yellow, but I ended up dirtying this one up a little bit, and the base was more brown anyways, so it makes it look like gold for sure. So and they're all sort of, or what would it be, most of these come in at my default weight. So if I spin a 2-ply, I tend to get a light fingering, like 500 or 600 yards for 4 ounces sort of weight. When I do my default weight and 3-ply, I get socked. I get a good fingering weight sock. So I'm not sure what I'm gonna do yet. Maybe it'll be the case where I try to like just throw in the yardages and figure out if there's something in my queue or something on Ravelry that seems to make sense for the yarn. We shall see. So I think I have a fairly good count for it. At the very least, I think I have a pretty good count for everything, so I'll have to figure out what it is that I'm going to cast on. So I hope that you want to knit along with me on this one. I'm sort of focusing on the handspun right now just because I've been spinning a lot faster than I have been knitting, so I've been trying to prioritize using it, if that makes sense. I think I'm done. I think that I am done, at least for a while, with sweater quantities. I don't feel like there's a another sweater quantity building up at the moment, aside from my massive project to do. So I think I showed this bobbin last time. So this is the Corriedale, which is sort of a navy color with shots of fuchsia and teal. I don't even know maybe what its base color is. So that is the project that I'm going to be moving back to because I did finish this one. So this is my waist skein. It is a 2-ply, fairly light yarn in the grand scheme of things. And it has all of the shades of purple that I created for my medium gray section of the fleece. So this is, I took my combing waist and I combed it a second time and I managed to get 2 ounces of fiber out of it, and that's this bobbin. So I still have to count it to figure out where. I think the nitty naughty is in the master bathroom for some reason. So I will have to retrieve it, and I'll have to count my yardage actually downstairs instead of upstairs, because I need a Lazy Kate to count as well. But this was something that I finished right before I left on my trip, and it is really soft and lovely. So I am looking forward to the yarn I end up creating, because this isn't even the top yet. I haven't even gotten to the spinning the top section of the project yet. So some of the top is way up there, but what would it be? I'll have to count this off, and I am in the process of pulling the top form of this now. And this is just like a little sample of the gorgeousness. So I arranged it in such a way where I did get some variation in tone. The colors seem to be turning out fairly wrong. So this is made up of a maroon, a light purple, and a teal. And I ended up putting the full ball of top onto the hackle and then adding another and another and another until I had about a quarter of the total fiber on, and that was the point at which I was full. So this is half of it. So I did a quarter of it. I pulled the top off, and I sort of smushed it down and then put the other half on, so that I would have like similar waist to what I had done before. So this is the first half, and then I'm in the process of working on the second half. It is mounted to my desk downstairs, and I'm not sure where I left off. It's been so many days since I thought about it. I think I was more focused on my trip at that point. So almost at the halfway point on that, and then once I'm finished pulling that top, then I will get going on the combing of my last third. So that was the white third of the fleece that I dyed in shades of blue and some black in there too. We'll figure out what crazy color it is. I don't know. I'm like slightly nervous about what I had dyed black. So, but we shall see what ends up coming of it. Maybe it'll turn out to look very different once it's combed. So, I haven't quite started on that yet, but it will be happening pretty soon. I'll have to, I want to like clear the hackle first and be like, okay, I've generated this amount of top. The hope is that I can get through the combing and the hackling before I start like really packing up. And I'm not to the point where I'm really packing up. I don't know if this is going to be expedited pretty soon. We shall see. So my father-in-law will be coming out for a month to help out, and we'll figure out what ends up getting compacted down, or if I can keep him busy with all of my husband's things. Silliness. So, what would it be? So, yeah. I'm still in a state of flux. It's still a little bit crazy making, but whatever. Once things start to click into place, like it'll go boom, boom, boom. But until then, what would it be? I am just in a state of indecision. So, I should be able to record next week. It shouldn't be too crazy. I am probably going to still record as usual with my father-in-law in town. I may have a little bit less time because I'll be helping finish up projects around the house, and I definitely did not feel comfortable doing that by myself, and it may be the case where we hire contractors. Who knows? What would it be? It's nice to have someone in your life who's retired. So it shouldn't be too crazy. So I should be able to record the 16th or the 17th, depending on how things are looking. And we'll just take it week by week until things start making sense. Hopefully, what would it be? The Knit the Precious Cow will help keep me sane in this time of craziness. So, actually, I forgot something. So, I was in San Francisco for the week for a conference. This was also a chance to visit the Dear Sweet Level 1 because he's already out there. And I ended up going to one of the local yarn shops in San Francisco. There are apparently 3 there right now. And I ended up visiting Imaginet, which I don't remember what neighborhood Imaginet is in, but it's pretty punny. I had to laugh a little bit. What would it be? So they had Socks That Rock and Madeline Tosh and Malabrigo, but they also had Noro. And I have to laugh a little bit because at some point I ended up in a local yarn shop and I wanted to buy a buddy for, what would it be? I believe like a skein of Silk Garden sock, but I bought a skein of just Silk Garden, which is like a worsted weight. So it was awkward, so the yarns that I wanted to use together I couldn't. So I ended up getting 2 buddies. So I got this one here, which is blues, purples, grays, and yellows, to go with my Silk Garden, and then my Silk Garden sock. And then I got this one, which is sort of springy colors with like blues, grays, greens, and even like some like olivey in here, to go with the other buddy skein. So, and I was going off of pictures from Ravelry, but yeah, no, these are gonna go together fairly well. Here, stay put. And then here is the so this guy here has some of this crazy blue in it, but I think that these will end up pairing together fairly nicely as well. So I may end up, what would it be? Because there's also some red in here, which I had forgotten about, but maybe it's not too much. So I figured that it needed some sort of buddy in order to go together. And some of that crazy glowing blue is in both of them. So, now I have a more complete set. So, what would it be? I feel a little bit silly, but not too silly. So it was really cool to hang out in the local yarn shop. I was not, what would it be? I figured that, it was the case where, the Deersey will level 1 humored me by going, and then he realized that he was very, very close to a place where he needed to run an errand anyways. So he ended up walking off to go buy a 5-foot-long piece of plastic. And then after I'd sort of looked through the whole store and figure out, like, okay, I think I'm going to get some Noro to go with my Noro. And then bought it. And I'm like, would you like for me to meet you somewhere? And so we ended up meeting by the US Mint. So it ended up working out okay. But what would it be? It would have probably been nicer if I had met up with people, but I wasn't quite sure how the day was going to go and that sort of thing. So that's how it worked out. I think that was the day where there was quite, I don't know. I'm getting confused about my days actually. So I did have a very nice time. I'm not sure if I'm going to end up going on too many more extended trips before I make the leap of faith. But would it be? Because really what I really need is for the Deersey Level 1 to come out and help deal with stuff here, and we're just hanging out. When we're out there, there isn't really very much that I can do to help him, but I need a lot of help from him. I need him to help me. He doesn't need me to help him right now. You know how that goes. So, but it was really nice to have like a full 9-day week. Super full. But yeah, so I am glad that ended up working out okay. So Stitches West is February 23rd, and I will not be going. The Deersey Level 1 will be here instead, and that's when the father-in-law is arriving as well. So unfortunately that won't be this year, but probably will be next year. And what would it be? My next big fiber event will be DFW Fiber Fest in April. So really looking forward to that. Hoping that I won't be living here then, but in some ways maybe that's fine. You know how it goes. What would it be? Especially after having We with the Deersey Level 1, I'm ready to move on from Tallis, but Judith McKenzie. So I'm not totally gone, but I'm mostly gone. So with that, I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I look forward to talking to you guys next week. So take care, guys. Bye-bye.